Okay, and we are back for another versus 2 PCG Invitational Round 1 matchup. The players are just rolling for initiative. I believe Ashley got a 3, and I think James got a 17, so I suspect James being on Outriders means he is going to choose to go first. Ashley is talking about how she has a side pile. My guess, based on the main character and the size of the side piles, that's probably an Ahab pile. So the setup for this recording is a little bit different than the first one that I did, in that I don't have my heat running. So hopefully that will neutralize the buzz. I got a little bit of feedback from some of my test guys about audio quality. So in this matchup, we've got maybe the most aggressive main character in the illustrated universe versus maybe the most aggressive main character in the photographic universe. All right, so we got a lab for James here on turn 1. All right, so we got a team attack of 4 Outriders coming into Rogue here on turn 1. This is probably James trying to hedge against some kind of a blowout card, committing all of his guys, although exactly what it is he'd be afraid of in this situation, I'm not sure. So we got 1 wound on Rogue to get started here. Uh-oh, that's not what you want to see. I think if you're playing Rogue, you want to be playing a blue location here in the row. Whoa! Whoa! All right, so Rogue is immediately going to jump to level 2 based off the turn 1 play with an attack and 4 power-ups. Holy smokes. Unfortunately, you can't wound the same dog twice with 1 attack, so even with that strong turn 1 opener, I have a feeling these counters are going to get knocked off in turn 2. So at this point, I'm not sure James even necessarily needs a recruit on this turn. Obviously, you don't want to skip turns. You want to have something to play out to the board every time, but this is the strength of Outriders in that even if he... oh, geez. Even if he had whiffed turns, I think he still has a pretty commanding control of the stats on the board. This Yondu play just pushes him even further ahead. So I think what he's doing is representing that all of the Outriders in that pile on the kind of right-hand side of your screen have a +1. So rather than putting out 5 +1s on all of them. I mean, I understand wanting to be efficient, but if some of them are exhausted and some of them aren't, maybe we need to separate those groups. Okay, so 3 dogs attacked in, all of them have a +1. It just puts a wound on Rogue, and she loses her stack of counters. Now, I'm sure what Ashley wants to see here is a blue location to put into the row. The fact that she's having to stop and think about it, that would worry me that she... Yep, another face-down location. Brutal. So Match is a great card against Outriders because he's got range, for one, but also his effect just melts an Outrider as well. So 2 turns, 2 wounds. Unfortunately, the 2 wounds on Rogue are a significantly further distance towards killing that main character than her 2 wounds on James's. Well, 3 wounds now on James's board. Maybe there was an argument for trying to send Rogue over the top into the back row and getting rid of Yondu, although I'm not sure that Yondu is that much of a threat. His stats aren't that big of a deal. He can't team attack with any of the dogs because he came down with a good affiliation. So probably full burn into trying to get some of these Outriders off the board is the better play rather than worrying about the killable supporting character in the back row. Certainly a line of play that I would have considered. Jeez. Grandmaster comes down. Holy smokes. So James probably is considering... Oh, okay. So he attempted to send Yondu into match, but Rogue's Flight is not going to let that happen. So I think the consideration here is James going to attack with every single dog? No, he's leaving the wounded ones. No. Okay, so he is going to attack with every single one of the Outriders. This maximizes the number of +1 counters that he gets. While there may be an argument for some kind of a more conservative play where you keep a few back in case Ashley has an answer here, it looks like James's opinion is let's just hit the gas and go. And you can't... I have no criticism for that line of play. The biggest issue with Outriders is if it goes deep, they can start to run out of gas. Once you lose a few of them and your opponent starts to play bigger supporting characters, that gigantic early game team attack value starts to dwindle. So having all of them swing in, all of them get counters off Grandmaster, this just... Oh no, another face down resource for Ashley. This is brutal. How does she even get experience points at this point? Now, her life transfer power is extremely relevant in that if she can get that life steal or the life transfer to go off, she can kill these Outriders before they have a chance to actually clip her. So there is potentially a chance that she's sitting on some blues in hand to surprise him. So Taskmaster is a good play here in that he's able to copy Grandmaster's ability, which lets Rogue get bigger. Oh, no. And James has the answer. So, wait. I guess he just flashed the card and decided not to play it, took the wound, and he's down 1 dog. Unfortunately, Taskmaster has no range because Grandmaster does not have range, so he can't do anything from the back row. So Ashley is in the position of just making 1 attack. Now, eliminating one of the Outriders is a big deal. That is obviously the win condition of the game, is to get rid of all those Outriders. But I think there may have been an argument for just putting Taskmaster up front and trying to clip one of those guys. Although they all have +2, so that would have got them... Yeah, actually, no, she's correct. Just hiding Taskmaster in the back row is the way to go. So we see Gunman come down. This is going to cause James to draw an extra card off the Frohickey power-up, and Ashley has to discard 1 at random. So it looks like she's going to roll a die to choose which card gets discarded. Did not get to see what it was. Thin hand, no resources in row. I mean, there's a chance she's trying to sit on a lab in hand so that way she can surprise an Outrider with a life transfer move. But now with Grandmaster having dropped 4 counters... Okay, so This Thought You Were Glad to See Me is going to give +3/+3 to the Outrider that's swinging into Taskmaster and fully insulate him from any kind of crackback. Hey, is it a blue? It is a blue. Okay. So there may still be a way for Ashley to claw back into this game. That helps too. Clear some counters off something, or take Ferocious away from something. I don't think it helps enough, though, because he can't really fight on his own. He does have range. Oh, I misspoke a moment ago. I said the Outriders have +4. They actually have +5 because it's Yondu +2 Grandmaster procs. So it looks like the play here was that Ashley opted for the doubles daze to just clear some counters, and she immediately uses her blue to put another wound on an Outrider and gets herself up to level 3. Now, if she can start chipping these +1 counters off these Outriders, this does make a big difference, because James is going to be in the position where if he declares a big team attack, that's going to make Rogue huge. So he can't do that, and if he tries to come in with small attackers, or I should say smaller numbers of attackers with bigger stats, Rogue has a built-in ability to kind of push that down. So while things started off real rough for Rogue here, there may yet be a path for her to claw back out of this hole. So we have 1 naked Outrider, we have 3 Outriders with 5 counters, and we have 1 Outrider with 2 wounds. And Langley, if he ever recovers. There we go. Okay, so a Heimdall comes down. James is sitting on 5 recruit points, so he could potentially go grab a 4-drop. I wonder what he's looking for. Killmonger would probably close the door on this one. Yeah, okay. So Killmonger is going to strip away God Strength from Rogue. Killmonger's... Oh, man. Killmonger is just... I think that might be the nail in the coffin here. That's brutal. So the ability to shrink Outriders or punish Outriders for a big team attack, it's just gone. Now, there aren't any flyers in James' front row, so potentially Rogue will be able to clean that Killmonger up next turn? But, gah. I mean, things just couldn't have gone better for James here. Yondu on curve, Grandmaster on curve. Maybe one off turn where he had to underdrop the Langley, but even that wasn't very punishing. And it looks like Ashley is on game point here. 1 more wound and she's done. All right, going into turn 5. Okay, that's a good start. Got a location. Looks like a Utopia. Although Rogue doesn't need locations anymore at level 3, so I don't know that that's not a bailout card here. That doesn't really help unless there's some other kind of Utopia or mutant resistance affiliated character that can come down here. And well, Domino's pretty good. Even if she doesn't win the coin flip, Alright, so that is going to hit and stun an Outrider without even Domino having to enter combat. Well, technically she enters combat, then the coin flip, but without having to strike, I guess is what I was trying to say. So one Outrider with 2 wounds, one Outrider with 1, and 3 of them with none. 1 dead. But Ashley's got 1 wound to give. Unfortunately, I don't think Rogue, without a way to deal with that Killmonger. Eight, 8 into 10, 8. They have Ferocious. Oh no! Okay, so they redid that combat there. So Rogue is going to eliminate the 2 wound Outrider. She cannot swing into one of the ones that has 7 counters on it because 10, 8 Ferocious is going to beat 8, 8 every time. Killmonger ended this game. I don't think there's any way Ashley gets through this turn. I'm not sure what kind of plot twists she could have that would allow Rogue to live through this turn. Oh, geez. Talk about a win more card. So Goose comes down using 5 of James' 6 recruit points and just wipes Domino off the board. I mean, I think it's a formality at this point. A team attack with the Outriders is going to put this one to bed. And it just keeps coming. Oh my goodness. So 2. So that first card was 1 and 2. The middle was 3 and 4. Last one's 5. So Ashley's down to 2 cards in hand. And I don't know what they could possibly be to bail this out. Potentially James could attack with a singular Outrider for some reason. I think the only hope Rogue has to live through this game is for James to make a misplay of some kind, and I just don't see him doing that. Oh, I forgot. Level 3 Rogue gets +1 wound, so she's not dead yet. She does have 1 more turn. I misspoke earlier when I said she had 1 to give. I guess if my overlays included stats and health, that would help. So Match, I mean, that's a good card. That's a great character to get down in this matchup, but Nullifying Ferocious is pretty good too, but unfortunately, it's too little too late, I'm afraid. All right, so Ashley's going to scoop. I think she determined that even with the nullifier, it didn't matter. Oh, brutal. So what could have gone better for Ashley in this game? Even 1 blue on turn 1 or 2 could have made a huge difference, because the level 1 version of Rogue allows Ashley to strip attack off of those early Outrider attacks. Like before Yondu, before Grandmaster comes down, if Rogue can strip attack off of an Outrider, and if James didn't commit a sufficient chunk of Outriders, that could potentially allow Rogue to survive an attack. If James was attacking with, say, 2 Outriders at a time, Ashley could bounce one of those, put a wound on an Outrider. Now, being a shrewd player, I think James is aware of what Rogue's power does and will probably try to attack around that if he's worried that Ashley has the blue. But at level 2, it gets even better, because at level 2, she can straight up kill an Outrider with that -2 defense. So really, getting blue locations early in the game could be the recipe for success that Rogue needs in this matchup. Although, realistically speaking, Outriders is just so aggressive. It comes down to, I think Rogue's path to victory has to involve drawing blues, drawing match early, and hoping that James misses Yondu, Grandmaster, these kinds of cards, or having an answer for those. A nullifier that she can hide in the back row to turn off Grandmaster's power could potentially slow James down enough that she can start dropping bombs. Domino is a great card in this matchup. Match is a great card in this matchup. So the tools are there, but there needs to be some luck to help out as well. So turn 1, play 1, Ashley gets a blue, which is exactly what you want to see for Rogue, starting with a wound on an Outrider before James even gets to draw his first 2 cards, and some XP. This is a much stronger start. But then again, anytime an aggro main character gets to go first, they're going to look better than when they're going second. So we're certainly not out of the woods yet as far as the Rogue side of things here, but this is the way you want to see that main character start the game. So James attacks with all of them, and Ashley has no answer and simply eats a wound. I think Ashley really wants to play match here. Potentially an Ahab draw. I still think that her side pile probably was Ahab. Okay, Kane is alright. We need blues. That's important. He's not going to necessarily help her get a wound on the Outriders this turn, but that blue certainly... Wow, look at that just absolute locational desert that Ashley has. It's just all characters. Now, I would assume that this Rogue deck is running 4 blue basics and 4 Utopias and no other locations, just to make sure that every time Kane hits the board, Rogue is going to get a blue and collect at least 2 XP. James waves off the cut there. So Rogue is going to level up off putting a second wound onto that Outrider. Interesting that Kane is just hanging out up front. I mean, I guess you don't necessarily want to protect that character for any reason. You can't really do anything with all the ferocious that's out there. But maybe you tuck him in the back row, force James to have to think about how many Outriders he wants to commit to get through Rogue if he wants to fully clear your board. Probably doesn't matter, though. Okay, well, the well-oiled machine that is the Outrider deck build has once again stuck a Grandmaster on curve, and there is a gigantic wall coming in Ashley now. If only you could... Does she have another blue, I wonder? Oh, of course we knew she had the blue, the one she got with Kane. Opting not to play it there and just taking the wound. Now, I mean, the experience is probably worth grabbing, but if you can use that blue to create a bigger impact on combat, hanging on to it for another turn probably makes sense. Plus, that gives you something to put into your row. So while it's frustrating to not be able to proactively... Is that a Jessica Jones? Does Jessica Jones matter at all to Outriders? Are there any powers in this deck that use yellow? I doubt it. Now, being able to fly is relevant. Ugh. So Jessica into Grandmaster would have potentially been a bailout play here. Unfortunately, friend from work means Jessica should have got hit back off that, because that gives Grandmaster +3 attack. I guess they missed that. So clearing counters off of an Outrider, adding a wound. Ashley played the one visible blue, the one blue that we knew for sure she had, off the cane to collect a couple more XP, which has got to be the move. I mean, while she's not under tremendous pressure right now with only 2 wounds, level 3 rogue is how Ashley gets through this game alive. So the quicker she can get leveled up, the better off she's going to be. Because I think we're very likely to see another wound here this turn. Now, something like Morta would be really good here for James. I don't know if he's got Scully in the deck, but Scully, a Outrider inclusion that Burt Richardson made pretty famous at Midwinter 2020. We know he's running the Gunman package. Presumably that would also include I Need Your Help to search for some... Man. There are no such thing as off turns in this James Monroe Outrider deck. Alright, so he's going to search for something, put it on top. This play may just be him doing what's optimal for this turn, but for my money, if I was seeing my opponent do this, I think that telegraphs a Frohickey power-up coming here any moment now. And I suspect, given the way Ashley is looking at her hand, she's wondering which of these cards Langley is going to force to the KO pile. I like the way James is trying to do all of his shuffling on camera, where everybody can see it. While I do not think there is much concern in our tight-knit small community as far as people bending or breaking rules, it's still nice to have everything on video where there's no question. So yeah, as I kind of predicted, the Frohickey comes down. So Ashley had 7 cards and fanned them out and let James select one. He chose number 4. Again, it went to the KO pile before I could really see what she was forced to discard. So, oh no. So another I Need Your Help. I wonder if that telegraphs yet another Frohickey in hand. Looking ahead towards combat, I don't think James cares at all about the cane. And if it's going to take an attack away from something else, probably he lets it go. Is there any world... So there's enough Outriders that already have +1 counters on him. He could just rip through Jessica Jones. 3 attacks if Ashley chooses to flip her face up. Probably she would not opt to do that. I suspect if you're in Ashley's situation here and Jessica Jones takes that first wound, you just leave her face down. There's no yellow superpowers you're worried about. James does not have flyers to prevent Jessica from getting into the back row, and arguably having somebody that can fly into that Grandmaster is your only bailout from this pretty terrible situation you're starting to see yourself in. Card on top. Frohickey. Ah! Yep, there it is. So he draws the card. Ash is going to roll a d6 now because she's only got the 6 cards in hand, so the numbers line up real well. Card number 5, again, hits the KO pile. Not sure what that was. Oh my goodness. It just... Gunman plus Outriders is just the world of brokenness. So another dice roll, get rid of another card. I think that leaves Ashley at 4 cards in hand. We're going to see some big Outriders this turn, I think. So Jessica's going to take a wound. Does she tough it out? Nope. That makes sense. I don't think there's any reason to just leave your Jessica up to get slaughtered. So all the remaining Outriders are coming at Rogue. They all get buffed off Grandmaster. I think that means all the Outriders except one are +4/+4? Which is just... What do you do? You need something that would wipe... Oh, man. Too late, unfortunately. Oh, so there is one Outrider that doesn't have any counters on it. Oh, okay, this might actually bail her out, because with that one Outrider being small enough that Christy can actually take the shot at range, this is going to put wounds on James's entire board and clear off those Grandmaster counters. This gives him gives her a clear attack into the back row. This is huge. That is a big swing. So Jessica's going to attempt to clean up the +1 counter engine that James has been using to just smash Ash's face all game. And she gets it. Okay, we're still in this. A power up into Frohickey. It is not going to be enough of a stat change to get... So that's not enough to get her to level 3, but it's certainly enough to clear that Langley. So Langley's had 3 power-ups, right? So he's a 4/7? Yeah, he's a 4/7. So Ashley has to commit an additional power-up in order to get big enough to hit Frohickey, which is crazy that a level 2 main character has to double commit power-ups to deal with a 2-drop. Unbelievable. So now she's 10/10. Oh, Langley survives. Friend from work comes down and cancels that combat. I think Christy should be exhausted. And I'm pretty sure Jessica should have 2 wounds here. But these games were all recorded at times that worked out best for the players, and like any tournament game, once a game state is accepted by both players, there's not really anything we can do about it. Thus far, that crackback wound on turn 3 from Jessica Jones has not been relevant. And actually, now that I think about it, what is the text on "I thought you'd be glad to see me"? You can only choose a main character, so that Grandmaster should have been gone a turn earlier. Oh my goodness. That changes the fabric of this game somewhat significantly. But again, this is how tournament play goes. There are times where things slip past both players and it does affect the outcome of the game. We, of course, do our best to not let that happen as players, as judges, as spectators. We want to see clean games, but misplay and blunder is part of card games. So do we see a Whiplash pull Christy to the front row here? I think if he's got the power to do it, he does. I think Christie is just a death sentence if... Yep. Here's the blue. It's going to put a -1 counter onto Christie. So 5-4 Mordo into 5-2 Christie. So they'll trade? Yeah, I guess James doesn't care about Mordo's keyword here. There are no superpowers that Ashley has on board that are threatening. And now we go into Outrider cleanup mode. But I don't think... So for Outriders, that is... Yeah, if he attacks any of those Outriders with no counters on them into Rogue, they just die. So this turned into a real game. Man, if Ashley could grab a nullifier and nullify Ferocious, so Kane was actually a viable call. So Ashley misses on the coin roll, or the coin flip. But it doesn't matter because 5 attack at range is enough to kill an Outrider. So, 1 Outrider with 2 wounds, 3 Outriders with 1 wound. Whiplash is no longer super relevant because there's nothing she's worried about protecting. The 7 defense on that Langley is still pretty relevant. This is a much closer game. I think this is more representative of this matchup overall than the first game, but that's part of the power of Outriders is they don't always care what's representative of the overall game. Sometimes they just come in and destroy stuff. Uh-oh. So Killmonger steals all the powers, right? Including flight, which means Rogue cannot therefore just swing into Killmonger. Keywords and superpowers, yeah. So even though Rogue would be big enough to fly into Killmonger without flight, she can't do so. Jessica Jones isn't big enough. That's a real problem. That is a real problem. Now we know Ashley has a nullifier, but you don't really want to be in the position where you're like, I need a nullifier for Ferocious and I need a nullifier for Kill. Gigantic Langley is able to finally put Jessica into the KO pile. So 4 remaining Outriders into Rogue is exactly enough, I think. No, she was only at 10. So it's a little bit overkill, but it's enough. It's interesting to me that he's committing a Sokovia to move Domino up front. Oh, no. Man, if that domino flip would have hit, that would have been great. So I guess it's probably worth it just to get Domino out of there. That card can definitely do some work on your main characters. Man, that solo would have been good on turn 1. I definitely think Ashley thought about the Outrider matchup. I mean, an inclusion of a card like Christie, you don't put that in your deck other than to deal with things like Outriders. And she's got a lot of tools here. They just have not quite lined up with the order that James's cards have come. He just always seems to be slightly ahead. And when you start with 6 main characters instead of 1, so Massacre and a Killmonger, that's a big deal. That's an impactful play. One more dog goes down. So how many dogs do we have left here? I can only see one in the frame, but I think there's at least one more underneath. So I think James is down to two Outriders with Wood. And he does have another card kind of far off on the left side of his board that I can only see the corner of. Oh no. It looks like there's 3 Outriders with 1 wound and Langley. Okay. Which is still extremely dangerous. 3 Outriders are capable of swinging for 9 ferocious, and while we're getting into the turns where 9 attack is maybe not enough to hit any given supporting character that might hit the board, it's still enough to hit Rogue if he can do something about Rogue's God Strength. I would be shocked if there's not another Killmonger in that deck. Although, you gotta find him. He does have, I believe that's a lab in his row, so he could Heimdall, Bifrost into another Killmonger this turn, assuming he's got that card in hand. I don't think there's any 6-cost photo cards that are super scary here. Maybe Groot could be a real problem in that it essentially is a 3-wound heal for an MC that already has 18 health. But that's not exception. That slows Ashley down, but it's not particularly threatening. Oh, doesn't even need to do the Bifrost play. Just has the Killmonger. Yeah, Killmonger Grandmaster is definitely better than a Heimdall, pay a blue, find Killmonger play. Now, in order for Grandmaster to trigger, is it just when a main character attacks, or is it main character on main character violence only? Grandmaster is whenever a main character on your side attacks a main character. So if he wants to get the benefit of Grandmaster, he's going to have to attack his dogs into Rogue. And frankly, with Killmonger being in play, that's got to be the move. Like, you got to... Do you really care about Solo right now? I mean, I guess so. I mean, that makes sense. I guess James seems to be attacking this turn in kind of the opposite order that I would. Generally, I try to do the big thing first and do cleanup after. It seems like he was doing his solo cleanup, and now he's doing his big attack into the MC, which is going to get through because Killmonger stole her powers again. And Kane finally dies. James commented there that he's out of blues. That guy did some work. I mean, he directly led to the death of 3 different arguably impactful characters. I don't know if them suiciding Decane matters that much. Okay, so now we have an interesting card here. The side pile for Ashley is not an Ahab pile. It is an invention pile. Now, what could be invented here that would be helpful? I guess a nullifier. That's because Maker lets you put whatever equipment you want to into your invent pile, right? Although maybe it's limited. I don't remember Maker's exact language. So he lets you put equipment into your invention pile that only he can invent, and you don't get to do it until the start of your turn. He either lets you draw an extra card or invent. That's too slow, unfortunately. So Massacre is going to put a second wound and clear the counters off one of the Outriders, but it's starting to look bad again. Or, I guess, good if you're on the Outrider side of things. So it looks like Ashley's play here is to try to keep the Maker alive to get access to his invention ability. His 6-8, while 8 defense is not fantastic at this point in the game, his 6 attack definitely could have put another wound on something. I guess it could have put another wound on exactly that dog because Langley is a 7 defense. And Yondu comes down and just pushes everything that much further out of reach. It's not like James is doing anything surprising or unpredictable or shocking. He's just getting big and turning right, which is what Outriders do. Oh, goodness. So Rogue's definitely going to take a wound here. I think it's likely that we see a board clear. I mean, Langley can hit for 6. Killmonger can hit for 6. Maybe he's got to commit the Outriders into Rogue while Killmonger's in play and God's Strength is turned off. You're gonna have to put Killmonger up in the front if you want to be able to attack with him. And it seems like now's the time for that. All right, so the two double wounded Outriders go into Rogue, successful. So 6 attack off Langley into Massacre. At 6-9, I don't know what Massacre could possibly do to survive that. So there's okay, so we have an Outrider with 10 attack coming into the Maker. And I think that was the last card in James' hand. Yep, confirmed. That was the last card in his hand. So, potentially this could be a turn where Ash gets to make a play. I mean, she can act without having to worry about any kind of combat interaction. But unfortunately, I think it might be too late. An extra card or an invention off Maker maybe could have bailed this out. Now, Killmonger, if he gets nullified for the turn by Boomerang, does that give Rogue back her powers? I don't think it does. Yeah, it's until Killmonger leaves play. So even if Boomerang dazes or nullifies Killmonger for the turn, Rogue does not get her stuff back. Oh no, are you playing a Call to the Board? Oh, you never want to recruit Call to the Board. So we've got a daze on the biggest Outrider and a daze on the Killmonger. So they lose all their counters. But the two 1 health remaining Outriders are 7/5s. So even with ranged attacks, it's going to be tough to get to him. I guess Maker can clear one, Massacre can clear another. But then you have this huge Langley to deal with. There's just so much going on here. Alright, Maker kills one MC. Massacre gets the other one. So Yondu is a 3/3, Langley is a 6/9. And you have to clear that Yondu if you want to be able to attack Grandmaster, but at a 0/5, Grandmaster is going to be too big for Boomerang, even with the solo bonus. So with the solo bonus, Boomerang is big enough to clear Yondu. But I don't think Ashley can clear Langley or get into Grandmaster. Yeah, might as well grab the extra +1 on solo. James almost picked up his resource row as his hand. we all have those moments. So I think James is down to one remaining Outrider. What does he do here? You got to be careful with your Killmonger, because if Killmonger goes away, I suspect Rogue is going to just run away with the game. Now, there's probably an argument here for making... No, he's going with Hero Side Yondu again. I mean, putting -1 counters on all of Ashley's stuff here isn't an insane play. But probably sticking with the plan and making all your guys bigger is better. I mean, Langley at this point is gigantic. 7 attack, maybe? 6 attack? I'm not sure how big he is total. Well, he was big enough to easily clear Boomerang. So Solo, even with the 1 counter, is unfortunately not big enough to clip Yondu back. Well, unfortunately for Ashley. So, lost a couple characters there, but didn't take a wound. and Maker gets to be face up, so she's going to be able to either invent or draw an extra card this turn. I think she's looking at her invent pile here. So what kind of inventions could really save the day here? Serpent Crown would be huge. That would be huge to get a Serpent Crown right now. Nullifier. Oh my god, she's Serpent Crowning Langley. So Rogue is not going to be able to get any kind of gunman benefit by stealing Langley, but with 6 counters on him, he's a 7 attack. Oh my goodness, what a big character. So he's a 7/10. So what do you do here? I guess Massacre to clear Yondu, so that way you can use Maker to try to get rid of Killmonger? Nope. Maker into Yondu. So then Massacre into that last dog and just give up on Killmonger? It kind of seems like that might be the play here. You get the counters cleared off the one surviving Outrider. Put James in the same position Rogue has been in for most of the game, which is stacked with wounds and worried about getting killed off. So we're looking at turn 7 here for James. Ego would be huge. He could just fly right over and crack Rogue, and that'd be that. Ashley does have some cards in hand now, but it can't be more than like, what, 1? Maybe 2? Okay, Heimdall into a blue. So who's he gonna get? I thought we were on turn 7, so that means no Ego, unless I miscounted and we're on turn 8 here. Yeah, maybe we were on turn 8, so maybe it's gonna be Ego after all. Yep. Ego flies into Rogue, and that's game over. I don't know what... So, no combat interaction is going to be able to increase Rogue stats above an 8/8. Sorry, it reduces Rogue stats down to 6/6 and locks them there. So the only bailout cards Ashley could have for the hate that's about to come her way is something that either cancels the combat or prevents the attacker from striking or removes Rogue from the combat. And I don't think those options exist. Yep, they don't. All right. Rogue goes down. All right. Thanks again to Ashley and James for taking the time out of their day to participate in this invitational. Congratulations to James, and we'll see you guys next time.